No pollsters.
No media pundits running around with their hair on fire.
Just vibes. This is Vibes Only, a podcast that checks the vibes of American politics each and every week. And the vibes this week.
These polls, it's very funny. They put them out and the political and media class have their hair on fire for weeks.
And
the former president coming face to face with his one-time personal attorney, Michael Cohen, who gave 6 hours of detailed testimony under oath.
We'll give you the non-cable news TV version of an update on that trial.
Then we'll talk about Trump's big promises to oil execs in exchange for a windfall for his campaign.
We're also going to preview a new podcast from Courier that examines the right-wing takeover of the U.S. Supreme Court before playing an It's Giving, opening up our group chat, and leaving you with a good vibe. Let's get into it.
Brian, happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Glennis.
You're
That's so
welcome.
kind.
Today is your birthday. Happy birthday to you. I hope that you enjoy your day.
Thank you so much. That's very sweet. I'm spending it in Minneapolis at a conference. So
Minneapolis.
Super fun.
Okay. Well, so we have a new poll to talk about. But again, for our listeners, we're going to talk about the vibes of the poll. But the poll was kind of, I didn't love it.
Yeah, we're not going to spiral about a poll because we literally say every single episode that the election isn't decided by polls, right? And so the sort of classic disclaimers belong here the same way they always do. Polls are not predictive. They're only a snapshot in time. There are inherent biases in them. They're most accurate after you know who actually is going to end up voting in the end, which no one can know right now. And so there are all these caveats. They're really a tool for campaigns, not for everyday people looking to go about their lives without truly having a meltdown on a Monday.
Right. The headline was, Trump leads in 5 key states as young and non-white voters express discontent with Biden.
I mean, not shocking, right?
Not shocking.
That's barely news. I'm shocked. I'm not shocked, but I am saddened that it has gotten as much play as it has in the media. They just need something to talk about.
For me, I read a poll like that, and as, you know, a Democratic strategist and someone in the space, as I call it, I read that and I'm like, good, let's put more money behind reaching young voters and non-white voters. Let's go, Dems.
Totally. Yeah, a lot of work to do on that front. You and I were both in DC last week.
We were.
And had a lot of conversations that I think are tangentially related to this space. And I had a lot of, I'll speak for myself, I had a lot of conversations with people who meet the headline description that are very, very discontent with Biden. And I actually came away from the event more hopeful about Biden's chances because in that conversation, not in online comment wars, I'm not talking about a back and forth in the DMs, a real face-to-face conversation with people who you would think we have no political agreement on anything if you saw our profiles online. Actually, we got to the same place and we were like, yep, super worried about the future of democracy, super worried about what Trump will do to women's rights broadly, but especially reproductive rights for everyone, and deeply concerned about how the most marginalized communities will be impacted by a second Trump administration. So we were very much in agreement that our best path was a Biden reelect.
Yeah. And I think that's something to remember for people who are chronically or terminally online, whichever description you prefer, which is the Democratic tent is so large. And as such, we have so many different opinions around key issues. But at the end of the day, the majority of that tent is rowing in the same direction. I felt that way leaving the event this week and was grounded and motivated by that.
For sure. So what did the poll actually tell us? Well, first and foremost, Wisconsin is where Biden is currently doing the best. And he has a clear path to victory right now already in Wisconsin. Nevada, on the other side of the spectrum, is definitely going to be the hardest for Biden to win for a myriad of reasons. But that's especially concerning because there's also a competitive U.S. Senate race there that we need to win in order to hold the U.S. Senate. The rest of the battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, are sort of in the middle of those two. But yeah, after a couple of months of what felt like a lot of Joe-mentum since the State of the Union, he's really been rallying. He's been barnstorming in these states. We've seen, I think, a much more aggressive comm strategy and a stronger presence online. I think this poll sort of threw people for a loop a little bit because they were hoping that numbers would have improved more than they have.
Again, for me, as someone in this space, I see it and I just hope that people making key financial decisions are realizing that we should put more money behind messaging and reaching those voters. Did you see the Joe Scarborough clip?
I did. And so on Morning Joe, they were talking about these polls.
The New York Times Siena poll traditionally has consistently slanted toward Donald Trump. And what's so funny is the Times will release their polls. Liberals will run around with their hair on fire for about a month, right? And then like 3 days later, polls will come out that will show a deadlocked race. Anybody out there believes it's a double-digit lead for Donald Trump? Wake up. They're all tied. We can show you polls that show Pennsylvania, Biden ahead, Wisconsin, Biden ahead. Go down the list.
I wish I was on. I could have had a back and forth with them. I think that Joe's characterization that all New York Times Siena polls favor Donald Trump is not really accurate.
Right.
And also, the New York Times Siena poll was the most accurate it's been in decades in 2022. It had like about a 1.5% error margin. And so, like, yes, polling is broken, we can say, like, as a whole, because of like many different problems with the ecosystem that pumps out these polls and the attention economy and blah, blah, blah. But like, if you're going to pick on one, I wouldn't really be picking on the New York Times Siena poll as like the bad one.
Because they're pretty established and well-funded. And I feel like even if I were to see that come on my caller ID, like New York Times Siena, I'd be like, oh, it's go time. I'm getting polled.
I do have to say, we talked about this with Dan Pfeiffer. And if we're going to go deeper into polls in the future, we'll probably bring somebody like a Dan Pfeiffer on again, who's an expert in this. We can bring somebody from like GSG or something. But I have to say that a lot of my friends still are like, I've never gotten called or have this impression that like they call 1,000 people and then they're like, well, 51% of those people said this. And it's like, no. Like, that's not how these polls work. You're like getting a certain number of Black men voters between the ages of 18 and 36. And then you're weighting those responses to like try to fit what you think is going to be the ultimate turnout. And that's why they are so broken, is you have to actually know who's going to end up voting in the end. But I just want to clarify that, like, no, they're not calling 1,000 people and then just reporting out what they said. That's not how these polls work.
No. So just another poll as far as Vibes Only is concerned. And we literally have it in the trailer. The polls are broken. So whatever, we'll keep you posted if more polls pop up and we'll chit chat about them. But everyone just remain steadfast.
Yeah, you don't need to panic and spiral over polls at this point in time. You need to do what you can to get the outcome that you want out of this election. And that doesn't just mean the presidency. That means across the board. If you're someone who's plugged in enough to be reading polls, then you're someone who's plugged in enough to be doing the work. So you should be doing something.
Brian, I'm going to pivot a little bit. I'm going to bring it back to our home city of New York. We have this big trial, and the trial is heating up because we've got some key players now.
What week is this? What week are we in?
I don't even know. Like, truly, I don't know. Week 4? Three or four? I think they said it would be like maybe a 6-week trial.
A Survivor season is much more structured. I need more structure. I need to know when the merge is. I need to know.
There it is. The Survivor reference. I think we went 1 week without it. So Stormy Daniels testified last week, and then Michael Cohen is now testifying. And he was, if you may recall, his fixer. He's a lawyer by trade, a fixer by doing.
The LinkedIn says lawyer. The business cards say fixer.
This fixer, yeah. Have you been following at all or any of the headlines, or have you tapped out?
So I'm loosely following, yes. What I have picked up on is that live video is very important to make these things interesting.
Oh, because it's boring.
There are no cameras in the room. And it really, I think, dramatically reduces the number of people who are paying attention and are interested in this. Because imagine if they had played that clip on socials of Stormy Daniels having a back and forth with the defense's counsel on her sexual encounter with Donald Trump. Like, that would be
the internet would break.
The most viral video ever. But like, screenshots of court typographer transcripts are not as spicy.
Yeah. I think a big takeaway, which I think was we all knew anyway, but Michael Cohen did confirm for everyone that everything in the Trump world at that level required Donald Trump to sign off on it. So he was fully aware of what was going on. He also did another payment. Karen McDougal, she was paid $150,000 in an arrangement that was made after Trump received a complete and total update on everything that transpired. So Michael Cohen is confirming for all that Donald Trump was briefed on this, and he was like, check, 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 let's do this, pay them out, kill this story, make it go away.
Right. And let's remind all of our listeners, this trial is not about Trump having affairs. This trial is not about trying to embarrass Donald Trump. He's not on trial for being just like kind of generally gross and like harassing
Morally
women
corrupt.
generally. Yeah. He is on trial for violating campaign finance laws and for spending money on things that were clearly intended to benefit his campaign and then hiding that illegally. Like that is what he's on trial for. And to say that this isn't a big deal is to allow someone in the future to spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars buying the silence of people who worked for them or who participated in some sort of corruption scheme or who know very important details about why that person is ill-suited to be in office, and then allowing the public to never hear about any of that because they're going to just bury it all if you have enough money. And so that's what this is about, is maintaining some semblance of integrity in our campaign system to say, no, you cannot just silence all of your critics with money so that we elect more and more millionaires and billionaires, because that's already a problem now.
Yeah, it's a calamity of a courtroom. It's really unhinged. There's another thing that this is petty. I'm going to go to a more petty angle. But Michael Cohen, we learned in his testimony that it wasn't Donald Trump who came up with the locker room talk to explain away his Access Hollywood tape.
You described kissing women without consent, grabbing their genitals. You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk.
That was actually Melania. That was a Melania thing. So we see you, Melania.
That's very House of Cards.
For sure.
Doesn't she end up in like early seasons of House of Cards? Doesn't she end up like covering up for his something? It's like very that.
For sure. I think there was this kind of assumption that Melania was very passive or is very passive in the relationship. And this might just be a peak of knowledge of like, oh, maybe not so much. Maybe she is at the table talking about strategies and how to, handle crises. Something else is happening with this trial that has just started happening this week is people who are vying for either a prominent position in the Republican Party or to be Trump's VP are now coming to New York. We don't want you here, by the way. Fly home. And going down to the court and like doing pressers and like sitting vigil for their dear Lord, Donald Trump.
The press conferences are embarrassing. They are sycophants, just like desperately trying to get some morsel of attention from Trump. It's really sad.
More than anything, when I saw that like JD Vance was down there and like Tommy Tuberville was like, the jurors aren't even American citizens.
I am disappointed in looking at the supposedly American citizens in that courtroom.
Now I really want to go down. Now I want to go down there and I want to be in the overflow room and then I want to go out for their presser and I want to be the vibes only heckler.
I want you to go down. I want to hear more about it. I want to hear about it from you firsthand on the front lines.
Okay.
I mean, I guess the other thing that I will say is the other reason they're here is like, yes, to kiss Trump's ass and try to score political points, try to get on the ticket. They are also making a calculated decision to try to make this trial as political as possible and having politicians swarming around talking about like national political issues and talking about Joe Biden makes the whole thing into more and more of a circus, which is going to ultimately sort of detract from how it's seen in the average voter's eyes if they can try to invalidate the verdict before it ever comes out.
Totally. It is an absolute circus, but we see you. We see what you're doing.
We see you. And so this all comes down in the end to whether or not there's a conviction. Truly, none of this really matters if he's not convicted.
What if he is?
I think that we're seeing that in real time, that like people are not being turned off by the testimony. People are not following closely enough to understand like the true details of what he's really being accused of and the ins and outs of the financial transactions and fraud. But like, if he is a convicted felon, what data we have, whether that's from survey groups, focus groups, whether that's from polls, like the data that we have says that people do care. Like that the average sort of middle of the road voter does care whether someone is convicted of a felony, and that will hurt him in November.
Okay, speaking of the law.
Can we get like a Law and Order sound effect in there?
So Courier, I thought that it potentially, as someone who is running for a not vacant or available seat on the Supreme Court, and I thought I pitched internally, I hate the Supreme Court, the podcast, Courier did the appropriate thing, and they have found a true expert to talk about the Supreme Court. So Courier has a new podcast, Grave Injustice. We have a trailer.
For the first time in American history, future generations will have fewer rights than past ones.
Roe is dead.
5 justices ended the right of American women to choose abortion under the Constitution.
Supreme Court has delivered another blow to the Voting Rights Act.
The Supreme Court strikes down the president's student loan debt relief plan.
Despite growing dangers from climate change, tonight the U.S. Supreme Court curbing the government's power to fight it.
And by the time the U.S. Supreme Court hands down its 2024 rulings, they'll have even fewer.
What Rahimi is doing is reversing progress in a pretty spectacular way.
They made it possible to strike down partisan gerrymandering, and now, of course, they're going after racial gerrymandering.
And if you think these hand-picked operatives cloaked in judicial robes are satisfied, think again.
You kick the door open a little bit, and then it's like, what hallway do they choose to walk down?
So what is next? What can we expect from this chaos court and the networks at work to serve them up cases that will expedite their agenda? In this series, we'll seek to answer those questions, examining issues at the heart of the cases the court is currently deciding. I'm Lisa Graves, and I've spent the better part of 3 decades working to protect fair courts from right-wing extremists. This is Grave Injustice. This podcast will cover further attacks on reproductive freedom, personal safety, our government's ability to tackle critical issues like consumer protection, climate change mitigation, and much more. We'll talk with experts and attorneys and advocates about what's at stake and the people who have the most to lose. Follow Grave Injustice wherever you get your podcasts. We're releasing episodes every Thursday throughout the season.
Lisa Graves, who is the host of this podcast, she's done amazing work at exposing dark money and the bad guys like Leonard Leo, who we've talked about, and all of the different things that he's funding, like these amicus briefs that then the Supreme Court reads and then rules on. So I think if any Vibes Only listeners have any curiosity in the slightest about what is going on at the Supreme Court, give it a listen.
For sure. I think that this is the perfect time for this to be coming out, honestly, because we're about to start getting a bunch of big decisions in June. There are a lot of important cases this term in front of the Supreme Court.
To your point about it being like the release season, of the Supreme Court, where they're going to be talking about all of their rulings. And by talking about, I mean ruling and creating a new policy and law.
New Music Friday.
Yeah, New Music Friday. The Supreme Court is taking away your rights. This podcast can be super helpful to just be slightly more informed going into the June season. So you're not like when Roe v. Wade was overturned, super shocked, as I think so many Americans were. So give it a listen.
Definitely. I'm super excited to listen to it myself and think that it'll be a helpful tool as the term progresses.
For sure. And as I interview for the Supreme Court, I'll have more talking points.
Exactly. Those confirmation hearings are no joke.
Yeah. Oh my God. I could never. Oh my God.
I'd be great. I'd prep
be like, Your Honor, I'm nervous. Or Senator, I can't do it.
Your Honor.
I know. I'm getting them all mixed up. It's easily done. It's a bunch of old white guys.
You're just like too used to being in criminal court.
It's true. So in case you missed it, Donald Trump made a big promise to oil execs.
But it wasn't just a promise. It was a sale.
What's going on here?
Yeah, so Trump meets with all of these oil execs who are obviously no fan of the Biden administration. Biden's done everything he can to keep gas prices low as we transition to more clean energy. Like that's been a priority from day one of the Biden administration. And he's actually made huge headway in doing that. Just this year, solar and wind surpassed coal in the amount of electricity that they generate in the United States. So like we are on our way making real progress in this shift. And that makes a lot of like oil companies who make hundreds of billions of dollars on destroying the planet really angry. And so Trump had the art of the deal in mind when he had these oil execs down and said, hey, I can just literally rip up all of Biden's policy root and stem if you pay me $1 billion to do it. He wants $1 billion raised for his campaign by these oil executives. And it really is that transparent. Like people who were in this meeting just walked out of it and told the press, because I think that they were probably just kind of galled at how like
that was my question.
The corruption is. Yeah.
Totally. When these oil execs are hearing probably what they want to hear. Like one of the things that Trump said he would do on the first day, which you would think is super exciting for an oil exec because it means they're going to be making billions, if not like $1 trillion, is reversing, Biden's freeze on permits for new liquefied natural gas exports in the United States, it was a big deal in the climate world a couple months ago when Biden made that announcement that they weren't going to actually be moving forward with this like very large port in the Gulf. And Trump said, you'll get it on the first day. So now you're an oil exec. You're like, wait, what is going on? So for them to leave that meeting and then be like, New York Times, this is not good.
Right. People should be absolutely outraged and really angry just at how deeply this violates the spirit of our election system, to be able to just dump $1 billion in this way into trying to buy a policy that very clearly does like existential harm to communities all over the country is shameful. Like it's beyond words.
This is something we're going to be talking about more, I think, as we get closer to the election cycle. And we do have to talk more about the choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden has called global warming an existential threat. He's recognized that as president.
Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat.
He's finalized more than 100 new environmental regulations aimed at cutting air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, restricting toxic chemicals, conserving public land and waters. Whereas Trump's like, climate change is a hoax. It's fake.
All of this with the global warming and that, a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay? It's a hoax.
And he just said, like, cut me a check and I'll get money back in your pocket, big oil.
Yeah, I think that this is going to continue to be a theme throughout the year. As you're saying, like, we have to highlight the differences. And I've been really upfront about it. Like, I have always said, if you believe that climate is an existential threat, you have to be riding with Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Biden is your only opportunity to make real change this decade, right?
Yeah.
If we roll back the progress that we've made of the last 4 years, we're not just going back to how things were in 2020, right? Like we're going way back.
Way back.
It's giving another Mamala moment for us to dive into for our It's Giving segment this week. Vice President Kamala Harris was having a frank conversation on a panel at a conference, and things got spicy.
My mother would say to me, don't you ever let anybody tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. We have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open. Sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that fucking door down. Excuse my language.
Period.
You know what I immediately hear in my head? Let's go, girls.
It's giving Shania Twain. It's giving, here's Kamala. It's giving good for you, girl. It's giving Kamala uncensored. And I love to see it. It's the opposite of the Mamala vibe that I always complain about. I'm like, yes, that's the Kamala that we want to see. I love the honesty. Say it. We've come so far that we can have a woman vice president laying it down and people loving it in a way that I don't think that quote would have
it's also
well 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Totally. And it's so true for women. The amount of like meetings I've walked past where like I'm supposed to be in the room and I've just literally walked in and been like, oh, did you forget to invite me? I'll take a seat right here.
Kick it down, baby.
We have another clip of Donald Trump. He was at a rally in New Jersey, so not far from us. And I saw a lot of clips online of people leaving this because he just kept talking. But let's see what he said, something a little weird.
Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen the Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner as this poor doctor walked by. I'm about to have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter. Congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter.
What is he talking about?
It's giving the Drag Race roast episode when one queen absolutely bombs every season. It's giving that. It's
just
not funny.
Yes. It's not funny. It's not funny. I'm just reading here in the notes also. The context of that is that he's comparing immigrants to Hannibal Lecter somehow, which, as we know, this is a classic dehumanization, like out of the textbook. And it's also like he's not a real person. Does someone, like, at a minimum, shouldn't have someone been like, hey, by the way, this was from a movie, a fictional character. And by the way, the actor is also still alive.
Wait, is he?
Yes, it's Anthony Hopkins.
So it's just giving a senior moment. Let's call it a senior moment.
It's a senior moment. Not only is Anthony Hopkins still with us, the character in the movie never even died. So Donald Trump's just killing people in his head.
Yeah, no one's dead.
No one's dead.
Glennis, we have good news for the group chat. In addition to being able to email us at vibes@couriernewsroom.com, listeners can now also text us. If you go to the link at the top of the show notes, you can directly text us your thoughts on the episode. If you have questions, things you want us to talk about or bring into the group chat segment next time, then just shoot us a text and you'll be hearing from us next week.
Brian, that's super exciting, but I'm just reading the show notes and our producer is letting us know that it is a one-way street. So we're not ghosting you. If you've texted the group chat, the way the technology is, we can't text you back.
I don't even text Glennis back. Yeah.
It's true. You're just going to end a really toxic cycle of us not texting each other back. But keep chatting us because then we can see and we can talk about it on the show. And again, you can always reach us at email at vibes@couriernewsroom.com. But we love it. The community is growing. The vibes are growing. The group chat is growing. Brian, what was in your group chat this weekend or this week?
Well, one of our group chats was, hey, how does that coffee taste? Because we were staring at each other across a room last week when we were all in DC. The group chat truly came to life in person last week. A lot of digital content creators were all in the same space, vibing, and it was super fun to get to meet people IRL. So much of my group chat was actually coffee chats in person in DC.
Totally. It was really nice to be IRL with a bunch of creators. That was awesome. That was great. No, actually, I want to talk about this. So this is for Amtrak people. So Joe Biden, you especially. I was on the Amtrak back to New York. I didn't text anyone this because I like to be in the quiet car, but the quiet car like filled up. So I was on like a normal loud car. And the way people act like the Amtrak is like, no one's going to remember what you were saying. Like someone who works at a very prominent newspaper was sat behind me. And now I know the ins and outs of like the dailies department of that newspaper because they were talking so much shit. And I was just like, whoa, like that group chat doesn't exist because they are just screaming it in the Amtrak, which I was texted a different group chat being like, the Amtrak is the Wild West.
Yeah, you do always run into interesting characters on that New York DC leg.
Totally.
Also in my group chats this week, the whole RFK having a dead worm in his brain.
Right. Like casually and mentioning
too much.
That.
I was like, we've jumped the shark. We are in season 8 and we lost the original writers of the show and we're just like totally making stuff up now. That's what that feels like to me.
Also, no one cared. Everyone was like, that tracks. Like everyone got the alert and everyone was like, okay, that fully makes sense. And then it closed it. They didn't even read it.
A dead worm. I cannot.
Okay, this is a little niche for us Americans, but do you follow Eurovision at all?
I did not follow it this year. I saw headlines and that was it.
Because there was a little drama, like the Dutch contestant got into like, I think an altercation of some sort during the last day of rehearsals with someone on the production team. And like, I think they might've been favored to win. And Eurovision was like, you're out. Chopped, which I appreciate. I just love, and I want to preface this with I am a straight woman, but I just love how like gay adjacent Eurovision is. Like it's just so fun and camp and over the top. And I was seeing all of these TikToks that were like making fun of all the straight contestants, like pretending to be gay just to win because like it was like whatever. And then can we talk about the thing I want to talk about?
Tell me.
That crazy clip that I sent you right before we recorded.
Oh my God. Oh, absolutely. So a far right-wing candidate for Secretary of State of Missouri treated us to a instantly canon clip on Twitter of her running with like a weighted vest on. And she's like, in America, you can be anything you want to be. So why would you be weak and gay? And it's like, what? What are we doing here?
And it was funny because every single person who's actually secure and not projecting like most Republicans do just immediately clocked it for what it was, which was just so over the top and hilarious. Like SNL couldn't write this shit. It's like, what?
No, it's really, I'm like, okay, so we haven't come as far as we thought.
No, and that's exactly right. That's like kind of like the on the downward slide of the comedy of it. It's like, oh, this person is fully serious and is fully homophobic and xenophobic and hates most people.
Yeah, but it is funny.
All right, good vibe, goodbye. So we're going down to North Carolina. North Carolina had a Medicaid expansion, which I'm very passionate about healthcare, so this is good. Many more North Carolinians became eligible for healthcare, many for the first time via a Medicaid expansion late last year. So now, current day, North Carolina is now up to nearly 450,000 people who now have healthcare. So that's a good vibe. Anyone who has healthcare in this country, I'm like, okay, especially when they didn't have it before. And because a policy was put in place that expanded their access to healthcare, thank you.
Don't stop, never give up, hold your head high up, reach the top. Thanks so much for listening and for reaching out. You can totally send us a note via text by following the link at the top of our show notes. And if you send us a question, we might be able to respond on the pod next episode. Thanks again. Tune back in, same time, same place.
Vibes Only is a production of Courier, a civic media company that protects and strengthens our democracy through credible, fact-based journalism and seeks to create a more informed, engaged, and representative America. Vibes Only is produced by Devin Maroney with support from Courier's Kyle Tharp, R.C. DeMezzo, and Daniel Strasburger. Tara McGowan is founder and publisher of Courier.